Today we are going to continue with our one-step equations. We're going to focus on multiplication and division. And that problem from yesterday's lesson where I told you you'd learn how to do it, we're going to learn how to do it today. So first, before we get into the lesson, let's go ahead and write our algorithm for solving one-step equations. The first step is to combine like terms if needed. The second step is undo addition or subtraction to get the variable by itself. So when we do step 2, we're going to look at the side of the equal sign that has the variable, and then we are going to look at the term that does not have the variable. If it's being added, we're going to undo addition. If it's being subtracted, we're going to undo subtraction. Then the third step is you do the same thing to the other side. Remember, everything is fair and equal in algebra. Then we are going to undo multiplication and division. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. I would make yourself a note. I'm going to make myself a note. Notice that this is kind of the reverse order of PEMDAS. So in PEMDAS, you multiply and divide first, and then you add or subtract next. We are undoing everything. So when we undo everything, we go backwards. So it's like PEMDAS in reverse order. And that might just help you remember to help keep everything straight. So I made myself a little note. You may want to make yourself a little note as well. So I put the same story from yesterday back into this because the same idea applies. We have the brothers and the sisters, and the equal sign separates them, and we're trying to get the brothers and sisters to live in peace. So now we have a new situation to look at. We have 2x equals 10. And just like before, I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. On my brother's side, I have 2x, and when I have a number and a variable stuck together, that means to multiply. So this is actually 2 times x, and mathematicians know and understand when there's not a sign in between, they're being multiplied. And then on my other side, I have 10. So the inverse operation of multiplication is division, or how do I undo multiplication? I undo multiplication with division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That goes to 1x. So on my brother's side, I'm left with x. Then on my sister's side, I have 10 divided by 2. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then if I look back up in my original equation, I have 2x, which is 2 times x. 2 times 5 is 10. So I know that that works. So if my first example says solve a multiplication equation, I have 6x equals 30. I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. 6x means I'm multiplying, so to undo multiplication, I divide. I'm going to divide both sides by 6. I'm always going to divide by the number that is attached to the variable. Those go to 1x, or just x. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Then when I look at my original equation, 6 times x, 6 times 5 is 30, so I know that that's right. Okay, let's look at the next example. I have x divided by 6 equals 4. I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. So in this example, I have x being divided by 6. The inverse operation of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. If I multiply my brothers by 6, I have to multiply my sisters by 6. That goes to 1x, or just x. 4 times 6 is 24. So x equals 24. Then when I look in my original equation, 24 divided by 6 is 4. That's true. So I'm ready to move on. So just like before, I have a combining like terms problem. So I have negative 10y plus 5y equals 45, negative 45. And before I go any further, I'm going to combine like terms. I have a y here and a y here. So those match. They're like terms, so I can combine them. I have negative 10y plus 5y. Negative 10y plus 5y is negative 5y equals negative 45. And I've already divided my brothers and my sisters. So my next step is I have a variable being multiplied. So I'm going to negative 5 times y. I undo multiplication with division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. Negative 5 is what's attached to the variable. Divide sisters by negative 5. What I do to my brothers, I have to do to my sisters. This goes to y. 45 divided by 5 is 9. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I have y equals 9. And then just for the fun of it, I'm going to check it. So over here, get a brighter color. I have negative 10y plus 5y equals negative 45. Negative 10 times y, so that's 9. Negative 10 times 9 is negative 90. Plus 5 times 9 is 45. Negative 90 plus 45 is negative 45. So it does check. My solution of y equals 9 is correct. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next one is 3 plus 9 equals 6s. So I have my variable on the other side, and I have combined like terms. I'm going to go ahead and separate my brothers and my sisters. 3 plus 9 is 12 equals 6s. So then I look at the side that has my variable. That's this side. The number that's attached to the variable is 6. So I'm going to divide. I'm going to undo multiplication with division. I'm going to divide by 6. So I have to do the same thing to my brothers. My sisters are left with s. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 9 plus 3 is 12. 6 times 2 is 12, so my solution checks. We have several problems for you to do on your own. I'm going to go ahead and have you pause it and start working on some of these, and then you can check your answers after you do them. So I have 9v equals 36. I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. I have a number and a variable being multiplied. I undo multiplication with division. So I'm going to divide by the number attached to the variable. And what I do to my brothers, I have to do to my sisters. This goes to v. 36 divided by 9 is 4. On my next one, I have negative 8b divided by 96. I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. I'm going to divide by the number that's attached to the variable. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 8. This goes to 1b, or just b. 96 divided by 8 is 12. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. So my answer for this one is b equals negative 12. Number 3, I have 1.7 equals k divided by 3. I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. I look at the side that has the variable, so k divided by 3. To undo division, I multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Those go to 1, or 1k. 3 times negative 1.7, 3 times 1.7 is 5.1. Positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, then let's look at the next one. I have d over 4 equals 15. Separate my brothers and my sisters. D is being divided by 4. The inverse operation of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. D equals 15 times 4, 60. Okay, then I have 6q minus 4q. I'm going to go ahead and do that step. 6q minus 4q is 2q. So I have 2q equals 16. I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. I have multiplication, so to undo multiplication, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That goes to 1q, or just q. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Okay, then on the last one, I have 5/8 m equals 10. There are several ways that you can solve this problem. I'm going to do it, since we're using calculators, I'm going to do it the way that makes the most sense to me. First of all, I'm going to separate my brothers and my sisters. But since I have here multiplication, so I have 5/8 times m, I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to use a different color because it gets kind of messy. To undo multiplication, I'm going to divide both sides by 5/8. So this goes to 1. Then I have m equals 10 divided by 5/8. So 10 divided by 5/8 is the same thing as 10 times 8 over 5, which is 80 divided by 5. And 80 divided by 5 is 16. So m equals 16. So over here in red, I used some of the things that we learned when we did fractions. To divide fractions, first number stays the same, change division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. So that's how I got that, and you can check that and it should be right. Okay, so we have a filmmaker makes an edited version of his movie that is 120 minutes long. The unedited footage is 7 times long as the edited version. Write and solve an algebraic equation to find the length of the unedited film. Okay, so I have unedited. I'm going to use words for this first. So we have unedited is 7 times as long as the edited version. Okay, so I have u times 7 equals e. I'm trying to think, do I know any of these? Because I have 2 variables and I can't really do anything with that. So, so here, I go back up to the problem, and it says the edited version of his movie is This is not written right. I have this wrong. Let's erase this. So the unedited footage is 7 times as long as the edited. That makes more sense. Okay, so I know the edited version is 120. So I have 7 times 120 equals u, or unedited. 7 times 120 is 840. Is it minutes? Yep. So the unedited version is 840 minutes long. Alright, so notice how I started at the beginning and I realized that something was not going to make sense. It wouldn't make sense for the unedited version to be shorter than the edited version. That doesn't make sense. So I had to go back and think through what I was thinking, because it just wasn't making sense. So sometimes we have to do that. If you have any questions, come see me in the morning.